Hello viewer and welcome to our presentation. In this talk we explore temporal and geospatial characterization of trends in sea surface temperature. I am Prasanjit, a CIRA NOAA research scientist. Paul DiGiacomo is the chief of the Ocean Division and the principal science advisor for NOAA STAR. I also thank other contributors listed here with whom we have submitted a two-part paper that forms the foundation of this presentation. Korak and Huiming from NCI, Steve from CIRA, Rachel from GST, and Singyun and James from ESIC. What you're about to see will potentially offer insights into detecting and interpreting trends in satellite-based ocean parameters. So prepare to dive into the topic now and let's get started. This slide shows the content outline. We begin with the fundamentals, what is trend and trend rate. Next, we'll see the data used for the study, that is CCI, sea surface temperature, and a quick look at chlorophyll A and sea level as well. We'll then explore the components of a time series. Moving forward, I'll briefly recapitulate some decomposition methods and how to calculate periods in a time series needed for the decomposition to work effectively. Following that, I will interpret our findings both temporally and spatially. Lastly, we'll share some striking observations. So stay with me as we navigate this presentation. So what is trend? In our context, a trend represents a prolonged increase or decrease in sea surface temperature. It is also a time series in the same parameter space, accounting for seasonality and noise, and can be nonlinear. So think of it as the underlying pulse of our SST, indicating the general direction and tendency over time. So what about trend rate? This refers to how fast the change occurs, typically over a specific time frame, for example, a decade. Most of us are familiar with this when we think about trend maps. So why studying trends is relevant? It is relevant because identifying these changes helps us understand the driving forces behind significant events like ocean acidification or eutrophication. For illustration, the word cloud highlights some of the threats associated with rising temperatures, both surface and air. Heavy rains are all over in the news nowadays. In our trend study, we analyzed several parameters, including SST, chlorophyll A, sea level from C3S ESA CCI, and 10-meter sea winds from NCI. C3S stands for Copernicus Climate Change Service, and you may be familiar. For this presentation, our spotlight will be on SST only, as it is central to our science team meeting and in the interest of time. A word of caution, the prerequisite to quantifying these trends is stable, long-term climate quality data harmonized from multiple sensors to ensure consistent temporal continuity. Else the results will be flawed, reflecting short-term changes. Now let's explore the different components of a time series, why they matter, and how to isolate them, providing you with an intuitive understanding of time series decomposition. Time series can sometimes be broken down into several components: trend, seasonality, residual, and cyclicity. Here you can observe a time series of the spatial mean of daily global CCI SST with an overlaid ordinary least square fit. While a simple linear or higher order polynomial fit like this can give a sense of the trend's direction and magnitude, it's essential to note that this is not the trend itself. Trends can be non-monotonic, while simple curve fits are monotonic. In the animation, we visualize the trend, also overlaid here in transparent green, along with various components. I know I have not spoken about all the components yet, but we'll get there next. Seasonality reflects periodic changes tied to Earth's seasons, spanning from daily to multi-decadal scales and resembling sinusoidal patterns or harmonic crescent troughs. Trend, we already spoke about it. Cyclic components occur across seasonal periods but lack consistent frequencies. They may indicate episodic events like hurricanes and are often considered part of the trend itself. So it's trend cycle or simply trend. Noise is a random component and must be removed to reveal the trend. It represents factors we can't currently resolve and is contextually an irrelevant residual for now. However, if the residuals are large, it indicates additional information we have not managed to extract. Understanding these components is fundamental for interpreting trends in our data. In the next slide, I will discuss some decomposition methods, listing their advantages and disadvantages. Let's briefly explore a few decomposition methods we use, starting with the simple moving average, or SMA. SMA is a foundational method which involves centered moving averages. It can be multiplicative or additive, and choosing the correct model is crucial. For example, if the seasonal and noise components alter the trend proportionally, it is a multiplicative series, otherwise it's additive. However, SMA has a limitation of fixed amplitude and fixed period. To overcome SMA's limitations, we use seasonal trend decomposition using LOES, or STL in short. STL allows the seasonal component to change over time, providing flexibility. However, it also uses a fixed period. A further advanced method is multiple seasonal trend decomposition using LOES, or MSTL, which extends STL and captures multiple periodicities iteratively. A detailed discussion is beyond our scope, but you can explore the references on your own, which is hyperlinked here. STL-based methods are also robust against outliers, but another point, it's important to note that STL-based methods are additive. If the time series we have in hand is multiplicative, we first need to transform it into an additive space and then inverse transform it after decomposition. This is what you see here as a log transformation, and there are some references here if you want to go into the details. Now these here are Python implementations, and we see that the methods require specifying the period, be it a single period or multiple periods. In the next slide, we will discuss how we determine the period for these methods. To determine dominant periods, there are several approaches, and we focus on a spectral method starting with the Fourier transform as seen here, which precisely breaks down component frequencies, highlighting dominant cyclic patterns that you see here. However, Fourier transform alone lacks spatial control and a clear visualization of relevance of these periods. So how can one overcome this and appropriately select periods? To overcome this, we combine Fourier transform with wavelet analysis because wavelets offer localization in both time and frequency. The wavelet plot shows time on the x-axis, periodicity on the y-axis, and power spectra by colors. And here is also the cone of influence. The periods that fall in COI, or cone of influence, or are too short, for example here, or in close proximity as we see here, they are discarded. The result, we obtain appropriate periods for global, Bay of Bengal, and Chesapeake Bay as shown in this table. With these dominant periods in hand, we are now ready to implement decomposition. So let's look at trend results now. This slide shows trends, seasonality, and noise via SMA, STL, and MSTL. We infer MSTL, with its ability to resolve multiple seasonalities, gives a more representative view of the pure trend. The table summarizes trend rates. Globally, SST increases at approximately 0.07 Kelvin per decade with significant regional variations. For example, MSTL identifies higher rates in Chesapeake Bay, 0.22 Kelvin per decade, and the Bay of Bengal, 0.16 Kelvin per decade. See the backup slide for the time series of trend for Bay of Bengal and Chesapeake Bay if you are more interested. The higher margin of error for Chesapeake Bay is due to data noise, a topic for future discussion. But notably in the trend time series, there is a rebound from a triple dip La Nina, hinting at a potentially surpassing trend in the current decade compared to the previous ones. It's worth mentioning that analyzing trends across multiple parameters, including oceanate content, is crucial for comprehensive climate impact assessment, although this goes beyond our presentation scope. This map shows SST trend rates with the MSTL method. They are derived like the trend time series explained in the previous slide, but for individual grid cells. That is, each grid cell's time series is decomposed. A modified Sobel filter is applied to highlight spatial regimes visually, shown in the gray lines that you can see here. In a nutshell, we observe widespread warming trends alongside some cooling trends. Let me highlight some of the key findings, starting with the warming trends. Warming trends are ubiquitous, with some regions experiencing extreme warming exceeding 0.4 Kelvin per decade. The notable hotspots include North Atlantic, the Arctic, the Mediterranean, Black Sea, Red Sea, the Caspian Sea, and also the Persian Gulf. And conversely, we see cooling trends in specific regions like parts of the Southern Ocean and the Pacific Tongue, near the Carolinas and Southwest Namibia, African West Cape, and the Sea of Okhotsk. A striking observation is cooling in this otherwise warming area of the Atlantic. The disruption of AMOC, or the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, causes this. Meridional is just a fancy word for some direction, but the implication is, if past decades are any guide, this can have long-term climatic impacts because it will affect the global conveyor belt, that is the Gulf Stream. This pattern matches the Hadley model run, and it is really good to see that CCISST captures this. These observed trends can have far-reaching consequences on aquatic and benthic habitats and global ecosystems. I will leave the discussion saying that understanding the full impact of trends on the climate system requires a multi-parameter approach and considering the complex system and various feedback mechanisms. We have also explored other parameters, including chlorophyll A, sea level, and winds, and ongoing work on additional parameters. Further details will be discussed on another occasion, maybe 2024 Science Day meeting. As I noted early on, we have submitted a two-part paper, and the trend data will soon be accessible on the CS Coast Application Knowledge Hub as tile maps and NetCDF files. The URL is here. In summary, we tested various decomposition methods. MSTL results multiple seasonality, and we infer it is more skilled in extracting pure trend. The periods are derived combining Fourier transform and wavelet analysis. The CCI SST v2.1 data captures climate variability compared, for example, with Hadley model run. So various areas of increasing, decreasing, and abnormal changes such as AMOC slowdown are detected with this data set. Other parameters were also tested, and the approach is generally applicable to any gridded data. The trended maps will be available as tiled maps and NetCDF in the CS Coast Application Knowledge Hub. And in a future study, the decomposition method will be helpful in time series forecasting by providing engineered features to machine learning models and potentially for event forecasts such as HAPS. Finally, look at the message above about societal benefits. So that's a wrap, and thank you for joining us today. I hope the presentation was engaging and helped improve your intuition about trends. If you have questions or ideas to share, please reach out. And hey, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up. Bye.